In less than 24 hours, the San Francisco Shock and the Atlanta Reign have come out and bolstered their championship contender rosters, at least on paper, by picking up some tank players. The Shock went ahead and picked up another player from their academy team, O2 Blast, that being Junbin, while the Atlanta Reign picked up the tank player also from contenders known as Donghak. I wanted to start with Junbin to the Shock, as that's obviously going to be the more significant move in most people's eyes, and for good reason. Junbin is probably one of the more hyped up young tank prospects coming out of any region currently, so the fact that we're getting him a year earlier than we're supposed to because the league changed their age requirements to 17 is absolutely amazing, and it's pretty crazy that the Shock were able to add him to their ranks. It makes sense, it's been in the rumor mill, he gets to play with a lot of his teammates again, but still, it's a wild pickup by the Shock that just makes them even better. Him and Max are both two of the more exciting tank prospects out there, and the two of them in a rotation is going to be very exciting stuff. I think the thing with Junbin is he adds a lot of coverage that Max simply could not provide. Max is an excellent player, but having him cover everything under the sun when he's not exactly comfortable on things like Winston, for example, just wouldn't be the best move. Going for Junbin gives the Shock more versatility and flexibility, and it just makes them a well-rounded, well-oiled machine that's going to be on their way to potentially competing for a championship. Now, it's definitely scary a lot of the time to go for these rookie main tanks who are so good in contenders. They get so much hype, and then a lot of the time they don't end up panning out. But I think you have to imagine that Junbin has a lot of good things working in his favor in this situation. He's going to be in a place that he's very familiar with all of his teammates, for one. But two, the coaching that he has is top-notch, so he has a great chance to develop and cash in on his immense potential. Junbin is going to take care of any responsibilities that fall under your typical main tank role. He's really known for his Winston and for Wrecking Ball and stuff, but of course he could play the Orisa and the Rhine. He's going to have all of that covered, and I think it'll allow for Max to play more of what he's comfortable with, which is only going to make both of these players have more of a chance to succeed in the league. I mean, they're both two of the highest rated prospects you can imagine, both at the tank position and just generally for that matter, so Shock fans should be feeling pretty excited. It's not just because of that. Something you also have to remember is this tank rotation puts them in a better spot compared to last year. And it's not just because they maybe have a higher ceiling compared to Kaluj and Mikey. I also just think that compared to the beginning of last year, they're a bit more versatile and you feel a bit more confident in their likelihood of doing very well this year. Kaluj was excellent at most things that he played, but there were some concerns here and there, and now you don't really have to worry about that. And then you have to think about it kind of from the situation of having more star power as well. Even though Mikey was very serviceable during that grand finals matchup against the Dallas Fuel, he's definitely not a star player by any stretch of the imagination. So if Junbin and Max do cash in on their immense potential, then that's not something that is a concern for you anymore. And I think if you do end up in one of those really close games against a solid team in the grand finals, you might be able to take it home this time because you have that extra firepower at tank. Another simple way to think about it is the more help you provide proper and the more space you can generate for him, the better off he's going to be, and it's more likely that you're going to win some big games that you came up short in the year prior. Junbin is a guy that feels like he can hold his own. I really do think that the Shock are making the correct decision here. Not only is it safe to just have more than one option, but allowing this guy to be on your team rather than on an enemy team is only going to increase your chances of going really far this year, you feel me? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but he seems capable, he seems intelligent, he knows how to hold his own, both with the help of his teammates and if he kind of has to improvise and do things by himself. He has a good grasp of the game. I like what I see, and through some better discipline and coaching of Krusty's caliber, he could really turn up the heat and take his game to a whole new level. It really will be meta-dependent, of course, because Max is really good himself, but any sort of dive meta, I think him and Proper could really light up the league and give anyone out there some big trouble. But even if Junbin doesn't totally dominate the scene and be like a top tier superstar player, that's okay, because in general he's going to make this team better and more comfortable because he has that synergy and previous experience with literally all of these players. Like, they've won stuff together before in contenders. They've won tournaments. They've won championships. They know what they're doing. They're confident playing together, and that I think gives them a leg up over some of these other teams who are a bit more mixed and are still trying to work on that synergy aspect. The Shock could get off to a really strong start because of that synergy. Junbin is just one of those signings that makes you better than you already were and makes you more confident that you can go further because you're more well-rounded. It's not going to be up to one tank player to fill out all of your needs and potentially fail. You have a backup plan on hand and you can kind of divide up your responsibilities evenly. So I like where the Shock are at, and I'm a big fan of this signing. Shifting gears to the Atlanta Reign, I have similar words of praise. Donghak maybe not quite as known as Junbin, but it still gets the job done and does exactly what you were looking for as an Atlanta fan or an Atlanta critic. It's a little strange because the Reign said that they were done making roster moves originally after picking up their backline, but this is a welcome surprise. You don't complain about this. Donghak is also a 17-year-old player just like Junbin, and he's known for some of the same heroes. The main tank stuff, he's known for his dive with Winston and Wrecking Ball and whatnot, and that's basically what the Atlanta Reign needed. There's reason to be confident in Hawk as a tank player, even in an environment where he's the only American player, but the thing is, he's not perfect on everything. We saw that play out last year, where there were moments where the Reign would struggle depending on the meta. He wasn't the greatest Winston player. He's probably not the greatest at ball either. And if I had to make an assumption, part of the reason the Atlanta Reign went ahead and made this pickup is because they were potentially struggling in scrims without a true bona fide dive Wrecking Ball player. Donghak completely solves that issue as someone who has a lot of comfort and experience in that role, and he's found some success with it, as he was a part of Talon Esports back in the day, that team that was able to somewhat push O2 Blast and be one of their only true rivals. He was on Runaway for a short amount of time. This guy has experience in contenders, and he's played against some great talent and held his own. How I like to think about it is, the Shock, like we were just saying, made an upgrade, and they just so happen to be one of the Atlanta Reign's biggest rivals and potential obstacles to winning a championship this year, so you have to keep pace with them. You can't purposely put yourself at a disadvantage, because the Shock and some of those other elite teams will pounce on it, and you'll never win a championship. This is something that kind of just had to be done. It's no offense to Hawk, it just feels like the Reign needed one more piece at this position to help fill out some of those potential weaknesses later down the line, and it's better to do it sooner rather than later so you don't end up paying for it when it really matters. This just gives the Reign more flexibility to play at their highest level in more metas. I don't really think it has anything to do with Hawk not being a really good option for them anymore and him not panning out the way that they thought he would. Some people are probably going to make that assumption that Hawk is bad now or something like that, but that really might not be the case at all. It's just more keeping him in his comfort, keeping him in his realm that you know he can succeed in, rather than forcing him to struggle when you know you can do a lot better. Plus, it's doubtful the Reign would be so quick to give up on Hawk, especially because Gator's the head coach. That just doesn't seem realistic at all. Plus, apparently, the Reign have been going through with a bunch of English lessons for the Korean players. We've seen it from Lip, amongst others. And apparently, from what I've been told from some of my community, Hawk has been able to calm at least a little bit in Korean in the past. He can do it somewhat decently. I don't know if comms are necessarily too much of an issue in this situation, especially because a lot of the time callouts are really simple, even at the pro level. I just think that the Reign wanted that extra security blanket. That's all there is to it. Could language and maybe a cultural barrier play a small part in it? Sure. But if it is, then it's probably just a very small piece of the puzzle. In all likelihood, it more so, again, just has to do with Hawk's comfort. Especially with how good ball is right now, in scrims you might not be doing too hot, so this kind of helps put a band-aid over that. And for those other metas where Hawk just isn't as viable, Hawk's going to be able to play most things and I think start more often than Donghak depending on the meta. We've seen him flex onto things like Junker Queen and Orisa, no problemo, but he does have those weaknesses with dive heroes, and that's where this gets solved. When you're very clearly going all in on your roster to try and win a championship right now, you can't leave things up to chance. You have to make these types of moves to ensure that you don't have that super easy, exploitable weakness that'll send you home early before you even make it to the grand finals. Regardless of how much the new guy sees the stage and how good he even is, the more comfort you have and the more help you can provide your star players like Lip, the better. The Reign made a good move today. They're better than they once were, and I feel more confident in their ability to potentially make a grand finals run this year. And with that said, that's gonna wrap up this news video for today. Let me know what you think about the San Francisco Shock and Atlanta Reign picking up some rookie main tanks down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to stay up to date with all things Overwatch League news related, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.